6:30 start? Pretty close. Yeah. Can I have your attention, please? We'll be starting up shortly. And good evening, and welcome to the Lowell Planning Board meeting for August 20th, 2012. Before we start the public hearings tonight, I just have a couple of announcements. One, just to let everybody know, Attorney Joe Claremont will no longer be sitting with us on the planning board starting next month. Joe's been with us for over 11 years, and he gave notice to us at the last meeting that he would not be seeking reappointment when his term expires on September 1st. So on behalf of the planning board, we wish him the best. He's been an excellent worker for us on the planning board. And with that announcement, I'd like to recognize the city manager, Mr. Bernie Lynch, and he's here on behalf to say a few good words to Attorney Claremont.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure for me to be here with the planning board tonight to recognize Mr. Claremont for his years of service. 11 years of service is a good long run, although Mr. Lenahan told me before he's been on for 28 years, so not quite sure.
I knew I couldn't match it, so.
you figured it wasn't even worth trying, right? But on behalf of the city administration, for myself, and obviously for the prior managers that you've served with, and the city council and the entire city of Lowell, I want to thank you for your years of service. Really the success of the city is really dependent upon people stepping up, like all of you, and being part of the process. And I know it takes time, not only to be here at the meetings, but to do the homework that needs to go into reviewing all the projects that come before the planning board. And clearly you've been willing to make that commitment, and I just want to thank you for that and recognize you for your years of service. And after a few months off, if there's something else you decide you want to serve on, just let me know, and I'm sure we can find some place to put you. So thank you very much,
Well,
Joe.
I thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure serving the past 11 years. It's been an education, and I've enjoyed it immensely. You've got a great group at DPD. The staff is wonderful. Working with these guys has been great, so I appreciate that, and I appreciate your kind comments.
Thank you.
Mr. Lynch, before you go, I'd like to thank you for last week, the reappointments of Mr. Jerry Fischette and Mr. Steve Jenman to our board for additional terms, and also for a new appointee who will take a place September 1st after Mr. Claremont steps down, for Joseph Boyle, and I appreciate you appointing those members and satisfactory on the great work you've done in the city of Lowell.
Well, thank you very much.
Again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Leaving that up before we go, Joe, we just have a small token of appreciation, a little plaque that was given to you from us from the,
Very nice.
from the planning board, to show a little dedication for the last 11 years, and we thank you very much.
Thank you.
We won't let you off that easy. We'll pick you up at the end of the agenda a little bit later. Moving along, back to the agenda. The first matter we have is for a zoning amendment for the family daycare use. The Lowell Planning Board will hold a public hearing to hear all interested persons relative to an ordinance to amend the City of Lowell, Massachusetts, with respect to Chapter 290, zoning by amending Article 13, Table of Accessory Uses, by changing family daycare small, Section 13J, within the DMU zoning district from an N, which means no, to a Y, which means yes, and the family daycare large, Section 13K, within the DMU zoning district from N to which means no to SP, which would be a special permit. Adding clarification, definitions of family daycare, small and large, and child care facility, and adding language of section 4.3.3, home occupation, as a right under section 4.3.4, home occupation by special permit. So procedurally wise, this is referred to the planning board for recommendation, and then the matter will go back before the city council, who has the ultimate vote. So tonight, we're here to make a recommendation before the city council. Is anybody who'd like to speak in regards to this zoning ordinance? Please come to the microphone, give your name and address, and whether you want to speak for or against, whatever opposition you have, or anything you want to speak in favor, or just questions or concerns, could you please address them? Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Jeff Clark. My wife is Miriam Perkins, and we both live at Era Lofts on 172 Middle Street in downtown Lowell. We submitted a letter to the planning board last week, and I believe you may have both hard copies and electronic copies. I wanted to note that the hard copy is a complete copy. The electronic copy, due to the size limitations, we're unable to include some of the exhibits. The hard copy does have the complete package that also includes the DEEC busy street policy for outdoor play space, and also deed excerpts from the DMU condos that permit accessory uses. So the hard copy is really the one that you should be looking for or looking at. If you want an updated electronic copy, we'll be happy to send that to you. The subject of the letter was negative impacts of the proposed zoning amendments allowing family daycare as an accessory use and a home occupation right in a downtown mixed-use zone. So based on the subject of the letter, you probably know that we're against this proposed amendment. So unlike other zoning districts in Lowell, the DMU zone has some unique characteristics and considerations that really need to be taken into account before implementing the proposed amendment. So we asked the planning board to consider these issues, which I'd like to enumerate here. There are 5 main issues. The first issue is the availability and affordability of liability insurance for condo and apartment buildings. The presence of a family daycare in an apartment or a condo building requires that building to purchase additional liability insurance to protect their assets. Many of the insurance companies that would be available to insure a condo would not underwrite a policy, a master policy, if the building had a daycare in it. This would often kick that condo that is unable to obtain coverage through normal standard policies into the surplus market or the high-risk market, where they would be, have to pay additional premiums, very high, costly premiums, in order to obtain that insurance if any of the surplus carriers were willing to insure them. So this is a big impact on the condo associations. We've consulted with Michael Conway of Conway Insurance, and he's included a letter that we have as exhibit number 1 to our letter that basically explains the situation and the risk that it provides or presents to the condos. Our second issue was the immediacy of the impact of the proposed amendment to condos that currently allow accessory uses. There are we've identified 7 condos in the DMU zone, there may be more, that currently permit accessory use in their buildings. If the proposed amendment passes, it would immediately allow daycare businesses to begin operations in these buildings. In fact, if the condo associations decided that they did not want to allow that use, they would specifically have to change their master deed in order to exclude that as an accessory use. And as you probably know, this would require a supermajority of the owners, which is very, very difficult to get on any issue. So the immediacy of that impact is quite alarming, potentially, to some of these the condo associations that allow that accessory use. The other issue associated with this is the proposed amendment proposes including accessory uses in the definition of home occupations as a right, and we don't believe this is judicious. Daycare is not a residential use, and we reference a Massachusetts ruling in our letter, and nor are several of the other uses that are enumerated in the table of accessory uses in the Lowell zoning ordinance, such as newsstands, barber shops, dining halls, and so forth. By combining or making the accessory uses part of the home occupations right, you're allowing now all these accessory uses to become a right of home occupation. These things really need to be kept separate. Combining them is not a good idea. So Exhibit 2 in our attachment includes the accessory uses that you're probably all familiar with, and we specifically identify the wording in the master deeds of the 7 condos that we identified in the DMU that permit accessory use and would immediately allow family daycares to operate in those buildings if the proposed amendment passes. Our third issue is incompatibility with residential and art studio use in the DMU. Nearly all the housing in downtown Lowell affected by the proposed zoning amendments are condos and apartments. They're not single-family dwellings. The vast majority are condos and apartments. And most of them are in converted mill and historic buildings that really were not constructed to support family daycares. They don't have the required sound insulation. They don't have separate entrances for customers to come and go. And as a result, we believe this would be a major disruption on the artists and other residents in those buildings. And we also believe that property values would be negatively impacted. We have a letter from Don McMenamin, who's a downtown Lowell real estate agent, testifying to that fact, that property values would be impacted if family daycare were allowed in the downtown condos and apartment buildings. Our fourth argument against this proposed amendment is the DEC, Department of Early Education and Care, has policies on outdoor play space. And basically, there needs to be outdoor play space for any daycare, family or whatever. None of the condo buildings that we've identified in the downtown Lowell area have the required outdoor play space to support family daycares on site, on their premises. This would require that someone that wanted to operate a family daycare to seek an alternative play space, most likely a park nearby. We've looked at the parks in downtown Lowell. We've looked at the DEC's requirements for that outdoor play space, and we do not believe any of the parks meet those requirements. The main requirement is inaccessibility to a busy street. And we have that detail in the package on what constitutes a busy street. I believe every street in downtown Lowell constitutes a busy street. One of the requirements is more than 15 cars pass in a 10-minute period. And I think you'll probably agree that pretty much every street in the DMU zone is a busy street. If the play space is adjacent to a busy street, it requires that that play space be made inaccessible, completely inaccessible from that hazard. And I don't think any of the parks in downtown Lowell have that provision right now. And finally, our last argument is we don't believe there's been any demonstrated need for family daycare in the DMU. There are many group and school-age daycare options available to downtown residents, and there is also a service that provides door-to-door transportation to daycares in the surrounding area. We believe that the current zoning ordinance that allows group and school-age daycare facilities in the DMU, but does not allow family daycare businesses, strikes that right balance for the DMU artist residential neighborhood, and it doesn't have the negative impacts that I've discussed here. So we definitely support the current zoning ordinance and do not believe that the proposed ordinance would be favorable to the DMU area. Also in our letter, I won't go into the details, we have personal experience, my wife and I, living next door to a family daycare that was operating in violation of the current zoning ordinances and was shut down recently. So I'll let you read that on your own. It's our personal experience. So basically, what we're suggesting is that, asking you to please consider these important points and the impact that they would have on the current residents and especially the condo associations in the DMU zone. And we recommend that you reject the proposed zoning ordinance amendments in your recommendation to the City Council. Thank you for your time, and I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else like to speak in regards to this zoning amendment?
Good evening. My name is Miriam Perkins. I'm Jeff's wife, and I reside at 172 Middle Street, Dare Lofts. I would like to read a letter from Steve Syverson, who is a trustee in a condominium building in Lowell, and also the president of Arts League Lowell. To the members of the planning board, I'm a trustee of a small condominium in downtown Lowell. I wish to state my concern over a proposed zoning change that would allow businesses such as a daycare center to be established in residential condos in the downtown zone. Changing the zoning to allow operations such as a daycare facility bring with it a huge change in the risk level for any condo liability insurance policy. It also brings a critical change to the environment in which the condo owners now live, raising the traffic level of non-resident people and their children, and potentially causing a drastic rise in noise levels in units surrounding any condo unit where a daycare facility is established. I'm also an artist. I purchased my condo unit with the expectation that I would have the opportunity to live and work without interruption and bother from businesses that could be established under a zoning change. Granted, condo documents overrule any zoning change, but changing the zoning opens the door to potential legal arguments that no condominium trustee committee could possibly afford to fight. For these reasons, I implore the planning board to recommend rejection of the subject zoning amendment. Sincerely, Steve Syverson.
I'm just asking, do you want to submit one? We'll put in for the record, okay?
Yes.
If you could pass it up to our social planner, Joe, please. That way he'll have it for record. Thank you very much.
And just briefly to comment on our own experience of living next to family daycare, it really has been a long and arduous ordeal for all parties involved, for us personally, for the other residents, for the trustees of the condominium association. And while the city councilors have very fine intentions with what they have proposed with this motion, I don't think that they fully understand the impact as we've experienced it and what it will open up other condo associations in the downtown area to similar or arduous drawn-out battles. That's all.
Thank you very much. Anyone else want to speak?
Good evening. My name is Ted Lavash, and I am a trustee at Air Lofts. Been a trustee there for quite a while. Originally, in 2000, Air Lofts opened up as the artist lived workspace, and it's been operating pretty well since. And as you heard from the previous speakers, lately we've had a little bit of a problem with an illegal daycare center. So the trustee sought legal advice, and I have a letter from the lawyer and his backup case stating that it's definitely against our condo documents. And I wanted to make sure, even if this thing passes tonight, that our condo docs supersede whatever might be decided today. But I'd like to submit this in evidence to her.
Could you just, Joe, could you pass it up so we can look at it first? I know the young lady read her letter, so I'll just pass this around to the board members. Yeah, I understand that your documents would control what the zoning would be, but I understand where you're coming from. So.
That's our main concern, and we just want to, we don't allow any retail business except for the art, and we have an art gallery built into our building, which is fine. That's what the building was built for. We're very afraid if any retail opens up, it's going to change the whole dynamics of the building. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like this speak in regards to the zoning? Anyone else in regards to the zoning? Zoning? No. For or against? No. Hearing none, at that portion, I'll close the, excuse me, I won't close the public hearing. I'll turn it over to any question any of the board members may have in regards to the zoning, or any comments, or any questions of the speakers. Mr. Lockhart.
Made reference to a letter from a Mr. McMiniman regarding values. I don't recall seeing that in our packet. Did you?
Yeah, it was in there, yeah.
Was it in there? All right, I missed it, I'm sorry.
I think it might be in the hard one, if you didn't see it, the early one, yeah.
Way in the big, all right.
I think it was, I think she had it as exhibit number 3, correct? Exhibit number 3? Right, yeah. One, it was the exhibit, there's 2B, then it was on, and it's exhibit 3.
All right, well, I
Yeah.
can look at it.
Okay, right.
So, why don't you
That
go
was the
ahead.
opinion of that relative to how it could
All right.
affect the, right.
Why don't you go ahead.
Anybody else have any questions, comments, concerns?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, Mr. Fischett, please.
if I may, to Joe, Joe, do you have any insight as to the origins of the proposed zoning amendment?
David Mercier, originally, who made the council motion. It seemed like there were a number of individuals at the council meeting that were in favor of the proposed motion. And over time, as residential has become more open in the downtown, it's currently allowed by special permit, but it's becoming more residential in nature as opposed to being really strictly a commercial district. And that might be why it was originally put as no in the downtown mixed use. So it seems like there had been more demand for it, which I think was the original intent or source of the motion.
I certainly want to thank the individuals for providing a letter to us. Certainly, looking at it, I can honestly say I could see where, again, the downtown, we talk about becoming more of a residential area, and I'm aware of people that live in the downtown and actually work in the downtown and don't have a need to really get in a car and drive anywhere, and I can see where this would be perhaps a service that would be required, or that somebody would be seeking. Having said that, I can see the balance of that need, but I can certainly see the concerns of the individuals here today. I am not an attorney. My understanding is that this would not supersede the condo docs. You can't change what is recorded as the restrictions within that condominium development. We have condominiums actually in the city of Lowell that are in regional retail zones that, you can't put a regional retail business in that condo development. However, it is in the zone. Personally, my recommendation would be I would not want to have any of this by right. I think what's being proposed is a small daycare would be a yes in the table of uses, which would be a by right, and the large daycare would be a special permit by the Zoning Board of Appeals. Certainly, my recommendation would be that both would be a special permit. Therefore, it would require deliberation by the Zoning Board of Appeals, and they could determine whether, based on testimony, whether something is appropriate within a particular area. I think that would be my thoughts on this proposal, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fischett. Mr. Gentleman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joe, I also had a similar line of thought as Jerry did. Is there any measured, need for this type of thing in these, or is this just sort of a feeling?
Well, the number of units has gone up, number of residential units. It's currently up to approximately 2,800 to 3,000 residential units within the downtown. It's obviously that's number of units, not number of residents, but I guess it's more of a feel of a need versus, an exact percentage requesting it.
Okay. Yeah, I think, again, I also thank the folks for coming down, because we would never have had this perspective without your input, so thank you. And that changes everything, in my opinion. I also thought the same thing, that if anything, this should be by special permit. Do we have a definition for the difference between a large and a small daycare?
Currently not in the zoning ordinance. The amendment as proposed would provide that. It's pretty much right out of Mass General Law. The section reference is actually off in here. It says Chapter 28, Section 9, but it actually should be something else in there. It's actually Chapter 15, Section 1A. And in there, it clarifies a child care facility, a family daycare small, and family daycare large facility.
Do you know what they are offhand?
The child care facility that was referenced is really more of a facility that's commercial in nature. These family daycares, they're within a private residence, so it's not the primary use of that structure or unit.
I see. Okay. So I think the residents have raised some excellent points. If anything, if we were to consider any change, I would agree with Mr. Frechette that it should only be by special permit. You know, what we're faced with here is to make a recommendation, yes or no, to the city council on whether to adopt this particular amendment. And I think because of that, you know, I don't think I could support that. I think I would lean toward recommending against supporting this particular proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop. Mr. Claremont?
Yes, thank you, and thank you to the residents that came down. You certainly did your homework, and that's helpful to us. And I agree with my colleagues regarding if it is going to be recommended that it not be as of right use, it be a special permit. That would give the opportunity for anyone that wishes to put a daycare in to file an application, identify the need, allow testimony of the neighbors, including all of the residents and occupants of that building, to testify, and would also give them some appeal rights, you know, through the process. So I would agree that that should be a special permit process as well. And maybe we want to consider whether we want to get some authorization from the condo association in terms of what is allowed under their bylaws, and make that part of the application process, that they be able to submit documents showing that a daycare would be authorized under their bylaws. So those would be my thoughts on those.
Thank you. Just quickly reviewing the ordinance that was referred to us by the clerk to the city council, I think I'm just trying to figure out, when it gives by definitions, family daycare small, the total number of children under age 16 in the family daycare home shall not exceed 6, and that's including participated children who live in the residence. And then it actually goes on by, as indicated, as Joe said, family daycare is defined by Mass General laws. And then when it talks by the large family daycare, the total number of children under 16 in the family daycare shall not exceed 10, including participating children living in the residence. One of the other matters that comes up, in the large family daycare shall have at least one approved assistant with the total number of children participating in the child care that exceeds 6, as defined by Mass General laws. So I'm not, have to refer to Mass General laws to see what that approved assistant would mean, what type of education, what type of experience that person would have to be an approved assistant. And without checking Mass General laws, I'm not sure how that's defined. I think that might answer what's small or large. We had the letter that was to Mr. Lynch from Adam Backey, which is in our packet. I'll just read this into the record. This was a motion on 6/12/12 by Councilor Vita Mercia requesting the city look into allowing family daycare in the downtown and amend the zoning to allow family daycare as an accessory use in the DMU zoning district. And that was to Mr. Lynch by Assistant City Manager, DPD Director Adam Backey. As downtown Lowell has evolved from a central business district with few residents other than the elderly into a neighborhood with residents of various ages, including many families with children, the applicability of family daycare as an accessory use has also changed. The Department of Planning and Development shares the Lowell City Council's interest in allowing downtown residents to operate family daycare facilities as accessory uses in their homes. As a result, we have asked the Law Department to prepare a zoning amendment for consideration by the Lowell Planning Board and the Lowell City Council that would include the changes outlined in the attachment document, which collectively would permit the desired activity. Then it goes on and says, please note, however, that this amendment be adopted. It would not guarantee the family daycare would be permitted in all buildings in the downtown area. Individual condominium associates, excuse me, and apartment management companies may still enact rules specific to their properties which are more restrictive than the underlying municipal zoning. The amendments will, however, mean that the city would no longer prohibit the accessory use under its zoning. That's the basic cover letter, and I know people have spoken in regards to how it may affect the rules downtown and how it could affect their documents by the zoning documents. And I know this letter doesn't get into the part that's been amended to allow by right and by special permit as indicated by the other board members. And I think, as the other board members said, it's, if I may, Miriam and Jeff really did their homework on the presentation they gave us tonight and all the information. I was really impressed by the part, what you brought up for the early education and care requirements under 6.06 CMR standards for license. I don't know if these standards have come in, would be something that, how that would be adopted into a city regulation, but knowing people who work in this business, I understand these requirements and how difficult they are to meet. And I think to meet these standards, I think it would be difficult to do in the downtown area, especially when you get into the safety requirements for equipment, material, and furnishings, the license they have for indoor and outdoor, talk about what type of playground safety is necessary. So whether it would actually meet those standards, or would we incorporate those standards by reference? But actually, by reading those standings, it really adds a lot to think to in regards to the type of daycare facilities that really, for the licensing for the standards. I don't know if in the daycare, whether, you know, if we're gonna obviously allow it, what type of daycare, we want it to be a license, especially when they talk about an approved assistant. So if we consider maybe that approved assistant, and if they have to fall into those CMR rules, then that could be real stringent upon what may go in, may not go in. When you look at the layout, the play area, the traffic concern, the type of buildings it has to be in, and stuff of that nature. So I think a lot of it, on its face, is indicated, sounds well, but then the more you get into it, it could have more negative impacts that people don't think of to begin with. But obviously, by you putting this letter together, it did bring a lot of issues up that may not have been thought about by even the councilors when they first drafted this motion. But so, again, I applaud you. It's very well done for all the work you did. You can tell this took a long time to write. So I give you a lot of credit for that. For saying that, I think there are some questions on whether it should be allowed by right or by special permit, as indicated by other board members. Yes, Mr. Lockhart.
We haven't referenced this, a letter from the insurance company here in Lowell regarding the negative impact this would have on insurance coverage. And, you know, that alone is something to be concerned with, I believe. Just another negative that we can add. Under your documentation, number 5 reads, no demonstrated need for family daycare in the DMU. And you do reference it, I'll just read it to be clear. There are multiple options for group and school-age daycare in downtown Lowell. Door-to-door transportation is available from downtown Lowell to local group and family daycare providers. I think that's enough. I think this is a viable alternative here. Joe, can you describe that in any more detail to give us a feeling for what might be available now without trying to do any of this? And is that a viable alternative?
To be honest, I'm not totally sure the business mix in the general downtown, and what, if any of these types of facilities were located nearby. I could find out for the board members if they would like.
I don't know, it just seems like a logical thing. All right.
Anybody else have any further comments, or?
Let's see.
Anybody else have anything they want to say in regards to what the board members said? No? Okay, thank you. All right, what's the wish of the body at this point in time? As indicated, when we get a zoning recommendation to us, we can't send it back to the council saying we recommend this and this and that. We're either supposed to say yes or no. A lot of times we'd like to send back comments saying, you know, and I think one of the comments here would be, that was echoed by many board members, was that maybe if at all they're willing to go along with it, that it should be at least by standard of a special permit, which is a much, much higher scrutiny than that of by right. So if it was by right, they'd still have to meet certain requirements, but it wouldn't have to come in before, for a special permit, it'd have to be held a public hearing before the zoning board of appeals, so.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we recommend against supporting this zoning change regarding family daycare in the DMU district to the city council.
Motion's made, and we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? Hearing none. Chair votes yes for denial. So our recommendation is to deny the public hearing, deny the recommendation as a result of the public hearing to the city council. And I think a lot of concerns that we had, and I'm sure a lot of times the planning department can tell who's ever president of the planning department at that point in time was one of the main concerns that the board had was this special permit compared to by right, which was given for anybody given in the small daycare facility. So if they asked, what was the planning board thinking when they made the recommendation, well, at least we expressed our concerns, so.
And the key thing in my mind is that a by right won't give all the other residents of that building an opportunity to be heard regarding the proposed daycare center. By doing it by special permit, they'll have to show a demonstrated need, and that they'll have to show that it won't be more detrimental than the current use of the property, so I think it'd be critical that it be special permit rather than by right.
So, motion's made and second. Thank you very much for coming down and speaking. We really appreciate your input. Like I say, with all your hard work, it shows there's a lot of work behind the scenes that went into this, and maybe some things that people on its face wouldn't consider. But obviously, living there, next to a situation like that, and if you hadn't had that situation, people might say, yeah, it doesn't look bad on its face. But then you have to live in there, it might change, I'm sure it changed your opinion. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Nice job. Boy, that was good. Good documentation.
So we encourage you to go to the city council city council meeting, which will be, Jeff, so this will go to the city council for a public hearing.
Excuse me?
From here, it goes back to the city council for a public hearing.
Yes.
And they have the ultimate vote, okay?
to be there
Okay.
and present
I see.
our case.
Do a good job submitting this to them, okay? Thank you. Okay. Moving along on the agenda, we have a pre-application session for 658 Andover Street. The following individual has requested the planning board to provide a preliminary review of their proposed project at the address listed above. This is not a public hearing. The planning board renders no decision related to the site plan, nor guarantees any future decision, whether positive or negative, on any project that requires pre-application review. This application, as indicated, is at 658 Andover Street. The applicant is Corbett Development. The applicant proposes to maintain the existing single-family dwelling on the present lot, currently consists of approximately 76,467 square feet of land. The proposal would divide the land into a total of 4 lots. 2 lots would consist of 12,692 square feet and would not meet frontage requirement. The other 2 lots contain, that would meet frontage requirement, I'm sorry. The 2 lots would be 12,692 square feet, would meet frontage requirement. The other 2 lots would contain over 25,000 square feet of land and would require a special permit for under frontage reduction for large single-family lots. This is in the suburban single-family district, and it's required for planning board special permit review under section 5.2.9. We hear from the applicant, please.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, before we begin, although we will not be voting on this matter this evening, I do want to declare that I will be abstaining on this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Fischette. Okay, go ahead, please.
Good evening, Chairman, fellow members of the board. My name is Attorney Brian Occasion from the law offices of Kevin J. Murphy, and I'm here representing Corbett Development, Inc. And with me today is Ed O'Neill, who is the president of Corbett Development, Inc. And before you, we submitted a preliminary application for the property located at 658 Andover Street. That's in the Belvedere section of Lowell, and it's a suburban single-family district. And you'll see with our package, we had 3 plans that were submitted. There is a paper street that connects Surrey Lane and Andover Street, known as Worcester Road. And after doing the research and talking to many experts in the field, it's our belief that we could improve this paper street, and it allows us the right to pass and repass for the entire length of the street. And we submitted one plan to you that had Worcester Road being approved up to city and state standards and constructing a cul-de-sac off of Worcester Road and 2 lots on Andover Street. So that would be 5 total lots. And after reviewing that plan and taking into consideration the neighbors, although we believe as a matter of right we can do that, we don't feel that that would be in the best interests of the residents of the Belvedere neighborhood. Again, we submitted another plan, which again had Worcester Road improved, so that way there would be 3 lots on Andover Street and 1 back lot, which we could put a driveway onto Surrey Lane. And that's a better proposal, and we believe we can also do that as a matter of right under the laws of the Commonwealth. But the plan that we're here to discuss with you today, and I don't know if you have an easel, I blew it up here, but I know you have it in front of you, is a plan where under section 5.2.9, frontage reduction for large SSF lots, which allows lots of a minimum of 20,000 square feet to be considered buildable with a minimum of 40 feet of frontage. And larger lots may be subdivided under special permit. And this lot at 658 Andover Street is approximately 75,000 square feet. And as it's on a main thoroughfare in Lowell, I'm sure you've all driven by it and taken a look. You'll notice on that property that there's an old red house sitting on the property, and there's also a barn behind it, and they're indicated on the plan. Now, the barn, it would be our intention to raise the barn. It's falling apart. Mr. O'Neill won't even go inside it. It's in such disrepair. And the house that is on the property, our intention would be to move that house into the lot, which is labeled lot number 2 on the plan that was submitted. And that would require approval of the historic board. And we did meet with Aaron Clausen, Joe Jinowitz, and Steve Stoll and discuss this proposal. And if we move that house to lot 2, there would be 3 other lots. Lot 2 and lot 3 would be approximately 12,600 square feet. And they would have the requisite 75 square feet of frontage, or 75 feet of frontage. In fact, it would be 95 feet. Lot 1 and lot 4 would be over 25,000 square feet, which is a huge lot for that neighborhood. Actually, across the street from 658 Andover Street, there are a couple lots, and they're all between 12,000 and 15,000 square feet. So this would be a very large lot for that neighborhood. Additionally, the way this plan is drawn up, and after discussing with Mr. Clausen, is that we felt that a shared driveway for lot 1 and lot 2 and a shared driveway for lot 3 and lot 4 would only require 2 curb cuts onto Andover Street. And Mr. O'Neill has done this in other towns. We would develop the correct easements, cross easements between the parties, and make it crystal clear as to what responsibilities each one had. Additionally, the way these lots are, the way the driveways would be constructed, there'd be plenty of room for a fire truck and other apparatus to get back to those back lots. Now, you notice on this plan, Worcester Road's a paper street, and the way this plan was drawn is that if this street was abandoned by a vote of the city council, the abutting parcels would now own to the center line. And that's how this plan is drawn up. But even if the city council didn't take that action, we could shrink down the lots each by 10 feet, lot 2 and lot 3, and they would each still meet the frontage requirements under the zoning bylaws. And I know under a special permit there's criteria that needs to be met, and the social and economic and community needs. I think this plan would fit in very well with the neighborhood. I don't think that cul-de-sac would be good for the community. The traffic flow and safety, Andover Street is a very well-traveled street, and with only having 2 curb cuts at that location, it's right in between Stafford Road and I believe it's Windsor Park. Of the two streets there would be an additional 2 curb cuts, or it'd actually be 1 because there's a cut now, so it would just be 1 more curb cut for the property. The utilities in that area are fine, they're more than adequate. The neighborhood character, like I said earlier, the lot size that are proposed are consistent with that neighborhood. The natural environment, we don't believe that there are any concerns environmentally. And the fiscal impact, these houses are going to be beautiful houses. They're going to be a great increase to the tax base of the city of Lowell. As you look at the property, to the right, there was a home recently built, and a Mr. Bergeron owns that now, and it was built by Dave Daly, general contractor. And that house is a beautiful house. Mr. O'Neill has contacted the architect for that home, and he plans on using that architect to construct the other 3 homes that would be built on this property. Additionally, it's in a historic zone, so all paint colors, plans, etc., would have to be approved by the historic board to keep in character with that historic district. So tonight, we're just here to kind of get your comments and your feelings on this property or on this proposal, and what we could do to enhance our application should it go forward. And if there's any other questions you have for myself or Mr. O'Neill, we'd be more than happy to address them.
Thank you. Any of the board members have any questions at this point in time? Or?
I have one, Mr. Chairman. The plan's driven by the opportunity, I guess, to try and avoid putting in a public way.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that we know that back in 2000, there was a proposal that was made, and it had the Worcester Road was going to be developed, connecting Surrey Lane and Andover Street. And, Surrey Lane's a beautiful street. They're secluded back there. It's a cul-de-sac, so it's one way in, one way out. And those residents, I don't think, want a direct shot from Andover Street and don't want their neighborhood disrupted. So that's why we didn't want to develop a public way. We believe we have the right to under the law, but we thought that this proposal, using a special permit, would be the best for the residents and the community. Additionally, relative to the utilities, I didn't address that, but what we could do is have one tie-in for these 4 houses, and we could either go out onto Surrey Lane and have one tie-in there, or go out onto Andover Street, but where Andover Street is a main thoroughfare with the cement pavement and such, we thought going into Surrey Lane would be good for the utilities. Just one 10-inch pipe going out there, and that should be more than adequate to service all the homes. And additionally, that home that's currently there, sitting on that 658 Andover Street, is a beautiful house, and it actually faces Worcester Road. And the intention of Mr. O'Neill would be to actually turn that towards Andover Street and beautify it and repair it and make it a showpiece for that historic district on Andover Street.
Is there one curb cut now to access the current house off of Andover?
There's actually 2. And that's all we would...
Just the one driveway, isn't it?
Could you...
Well,
It's actually
it's a half-circle driveway.
It's a
I should say,
half-circle
So
with
you're
2
right, you're
curb cuts.
That's right, yeah. It's a half-circle, right. Yeah.
So what we would like to do is keep one of them and then just construct another one on the other side of the lot. And I know there's not a ton of shared driveways in the city, but after talking with Mr. Clausen and Mr. Jinowitz, we came to the consensus that this might be an instance where that would be what is best to move this project forward and to really limit the impact on Andover Street.
Have you considered, I mean, you've got a big lot here, 69,000. If that lot was essentially quartered and the driveway, public way, or whatever, the access came right through the middle with a cul-de-sac at the end to service lots 1 and 4, and that would also service lots 2 and 3. That would be just one curb cut on Andover Street to access 2 and 3, and then a cul-de-sac at the end to service lots 1 and 4. Wouldn't impact Surrey Lane at all, and you wouldn't have to do anything in Worcester, on Worcester, the paper street.
I mean, that's something that we could consider. I don't, Mr. O'Neill has been involved in, what he's saying is put a cul-de-sac right here for 4 lots.
Yeah, that's something we could do and meet all our setback requirements, but, I mean, the reason why we're trying to put a less impervious, less pavement, try to minimize it, try to keep as open green space as we can, and doing, under the special permit, we thought it'd be less impacting the neighborhood, but if we did improve that with a cul-de-sac, we could have the 2 back, you're right, you're correct.
It's just, I think our concern at the beginning was to just try to keep in the character of the neighborhood, and I've lived in Belvedere for 30-plus years. I don't know of any other cul-de-sacs directly off of Andover Street, so we were just trying to keep the look of what the street is now, but that is definitely something we could consider.
I'm just thinking that sometimes the pork chop shaped lot where the house is behind another house, with a small frontage on Andover Street is not necessarily the best, and if you had the one curb cut on Andover Street going right between lots 2 and 3, you could access those 2 houses off of that, and then a small cul-de-sac at the end to access 1 and 4. Obviously, that you'd have to have that accepted because that's where your frontage would be.
Right. And we wouldn't have we still wouldn't have that impact on Surrey Lane, which is
Right.
what's concerning, I think.
Chairman, I had a
Yes, Mr. Chairman, please.
Done? Joe, I had a question for you. Do you know about the paper street rights? Is it true that the developer could come in and if they're improving that street, basically just put in a street there, and do they have the right to just come in and do that?
The opinion of our law office has been that any abandonment or building of a paper street requires, I guess, an approval from the abutters that abut the paper street. So you would have to get permission from your abutters in order to do that. It wouldn't necessarily be by right in the opinion of our law department.
I see.
I haven't seen anything at this point that's changed their opinion.
Right.
The opinion that was given by Attorney Talty in 2000 was actually for this property, Worcester Road, and what
But if I may, it
So we're
wasn't
gonna-
this lot.
was this lot?
No, it was not this
Oh.
lot.
Hold on a minute, Mr. Arcadian.
I was here in 2000 when it came in.
Oh,
It was
I-
not this lot.
That's the one.
So
Not the
we're-
same lot.
I just wanted to know the opinion of the
Yeah,
current
yeah,
one.
I just, in the opinion that was issued by the city of Lowell, it says, based on the court's decision in Tatton case referred, the petitioner's right to pass and repass over Worcester Road to Surrey Lane. So it's the same road it may be a different lot, but it's the same road that we're talking about, Worcester Road to Surrey Lane, according to this opinion anyways. But if I could just address that law. This opinion was based on the Tatton case that Attorney Talty issued, and my office has done extensive research on that, and the Tatton case specifically addresses plans that say reserved for future roadway. That is not the case here. If you look at the plan that's recorded at the Registry of Deeds, it clearly states Worcester Road. And the law in the Commonwealth is well settled that you can improve the road, you can make it passable with the right to pass and repass for the length of the paper street. So, it would be our opinion, it would be our thought if we were to go forward that we would write up that opinion and ask the law department to review our research in the cases of the Commonwealth. Because this opinion that was issued, we don't believe is consistent with the law.
Okay. All right, so I think we're going to take the advice of our city attorney
Absolutely.
for now.
Yeah, oh,
anyway,
absolutely.
Until such case that they change their mind or.
Right.
But nonetheless, I agree with Mr. Claremont. In my opinion, these pork chop lots are just they're bad planning, bad city planning, in my opinion. They're very problematic. If people decide to put up fences or what have you, it just creates kind of an ugly situation. So my opinion would be, whatever should happen here, to try to avoid the pork chop lot situation. and look for another plan, whether it's Worcester Road or whether it's a cul-de-sac or what have you. But my other question was going to be, have you spoken with the neighbors, the abutters and the neighbors in the area?
We were going to have a community meeting after we got your feedback as to what, and, maybe we could draw up another plan that would address some of your concerns, and then we were going to have a meeting with all the neighbors to address their concerns also.
Yeah, so I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
I guess the president of the Belvedere Neighborhood Association, there's some some fluctuation as to who was there, so we weren't really sure who to get in touch with, but we'll do a
Right.
drop around.
I think they have a meeting coming up second week in September.
Okay.
Steve Hattan was the president, but he's outgoing, but he seems like he's been sort of
Okay.
handling it in the interim, so you may want to start with him.
Okay.
And then the other question I had was, I guess that was it. The other thought I had, and you sort of have a drawing here, this one here, where you have 4 lots.
Yes.
I think Mr. Clemont's suggestion of a cul-de-sac is one way to avoid the pork chop lots.
Right.
But also this plan, you could do this such that the paper street didn't go all the way through to Surrey Lane.
Yeah, on that plan,
Yeah.
our thought wouldn't even be to develop the street. It would just be that back lot would just have a driveway onto Surrey Lane, if we could do that. So you could just come down Surrey Lane and have a driveway to that back lot, and then these other 3 lots would be right on Andover Street. That was,
So that has the, I see what you're saying. Well,
I don't think this plan is, that was our thought, right, was to just have a driveway on Worcester Road, 20 feet wide? Is that
18 feet,
18 feet
right.
wide,
Would just
onto
be a-
Surrey Lane.
Would have the right to pass and repass, and we'd just have a driveway coming off of Surrey, which would service that back lot, and then the frontage would, for the another 3 lots, would be 3 curb cuts for Andover Street.
I see. So I guess, given that this is a preliminary hearing, my only thoughts that I'd want to leave you with is, one, Oklahoma lots I think is a bad idea. It sets a really bad precedent, something that I wouldn't want to support. Number 2, make sure you meet with the neighbors up there, as difficult as it may be. I think it's a good idea to get all the issues on the table. And 3, I don't think you can, I realize your stance on the paper street, but
Right.
I think, understand that we need to follow
absolutely.
the advice of the city attorney, and
Absolutely.
I wouldn't present it to the neighbors, well, we know we have the right to do this, so this is a better solution, because I think that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, what we would do is submit our opinion to the legal department and get their feedback before we would do that.
Right.
Just to follow up on that, I don't believe our law department would give you a decision.
Okay,
They haven't in the past.
okay.
They take a strong stance on it. They would give a legal opinion from the planning board, which they have given us in the past. When the applicants in the past have asked for a decision on regards to their matters, they have not done so.
Sure,
And I can set several precedents in the cases since I've been here.
sure.
But they just say, nope, it's up to the law department. They're not going to go ahead and say to an applicant, this is what we think, and you defend it or not. You make your stance, they'll make theirs, and they're pretty clear about that. I mean, this goes way back from when Tom Sweeney was involved and everybody else was involved in the law department. They're basically very clear on that. They wouldn't give it to you.
Sure.
The only other question I have is, for Lot 1, where would you get your frontage?
On which plan, Mr. Linehan?
On the one you submitted, because the way we look, the only plan I got is the one I'm looking at is one that says 1, 2, 3, and 4 coming in from Worcester Road. So where does Lot 1 get frontage?
Lot 1 has 40.24 of the frontage there.
And that's from what, Worcester Road?
That's if Worcester Road was abandoned.
Right.
But even if Worcester Road wasn't abandoned, we could, these other lots are both 95 feet. We could shrink those down to 85. They would still be proper frontage, and we would have 40 feet here if they were
Because,
shrunk down.
yeah, I mean, I think you'd have a problem getting your frontage on Worcester Road. I mean, I think if you're looking at doing anything with Worcester Road, now you're talking about a subdivision, and then you're talking about having that street come up to conform with the city requirements for a city
But
road.
this plan doesn't have frontage on Worcester Road. It would, the
But I mean, the
frontage,
only one, I mean.
the
you
frontage
gave
would
us-
be on Andover Street.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't see how you get it on Worcester Road
Yeah,
without a
it's-
subdivision.
It's just if Worcester Road was abandoned, the lot would now be to the center line, and that would be 40 feet on Andover Street.
Yeah, but that doesn't give you a fee simple on the abandoned road, does it?
I believe that's what the law is, yes.
So the law says you get it outright by yourself, and nobody else gets it?
We would get to the center
So,
line.
just you alone? Nobody else?
No, in this lot, the one of Joseph Parent would get to the center lot, the center line there. And Frederick Gabriel would get to the center line there, and Chester Summers would get to the center line there. That's the way,
So if they all get to the center line,
yes.
I think you have a problem with your frontage, but I'll reserve on that. And the only way, and like I say, so you'd have to come into the amendment, but I think you have a problem getting frontage.
Okay, but say we didn't abandon that road. We still have room to get the 40 feet of frontage just by shrinking those other lots by 10 feet. Because we just need the 40 feet of frontage under the special permit.
Which would require a special permit, right?
Which requires a special permit.
And if you read that section, it talks about, okay, front reduction, lots in excess of the effective date of this ordinance, SSF zone, which contains a minimum of 20,000 square feet of lot area, may be considered buildable with a minimum of 40 feet of land. Large lots may be subdivided in such a manner as to leave each new buildable lot with at least 20,000 square feet and 40. Frontage for special permit from planning board, okay? The structure of that home would be good enough to move? I mean, I've been in it several times. I used to cut the grass on this lawn for 8 years, so I know it very, very well. And I live 2 streets from there. Mr. Gentleman lives 2 streets from there as well, so we know the lot very well. And like I say, when Mrs. Flood owned it, I can tell you, I cut the whole thing for 8 years, so I know the lot very well. I know the barn, I know the house, beautiful house. But I know structurally, I don't know how structurally it's been, 'cause I haven't been there. I've only been there a couple of times since the Kings owned it.
We went in there on 3 or 4 different occasions. I have 2 house movers that gave me prices to move it. We'd pour a new foundation in the front and then pick it up and move it. One of the companies I've used previously. They're very confident they can move it with the chimneys in place.
Oh, wow.
It's not cheap.
No, I've been in Kings.
It can be done.
Not cheap.
Because I know that house is old.
Oh, yeah, it's got some beautiful character inside, too.
I mean, it's probably had to built in, I'd say 1890 or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, it's on the National Register. It's a beautiful home.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I know the barn is lacking, but the house is
No, the
beautiful.
barn's.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yes.
are you on the historic board agenda for our next meeting?
We were gonna wait, I spoke with Mr. Stoll, and he said to wait till, I submitted everything, and he said to wait until we had this meeting, and then
Yeah, all right.
he said he would talk to
I had
you.
a conversation.
Yes, he
about
said he would
that.
talk to
I just
you.
wondered about
Yeah.
that, okay, that's all.
But everything was submitted to him.
Any other questions from board members? No? Okay. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And Attorney Claremont, congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you.
He's not retired.
Not quite retired.
No, he's not retired.
For your retirement from the planning board.
Okay, moving along on the agenda, we have notice from abutting towns. Entertain a motion, place those on file.
Second.
Motion second. We do have some ZBA notices. Anybody have any concern on the ZBA notices? We have 4 in our packet for recommendation.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, actually, I wanted to bring up one of those, this is the one from, on 30 Edson Street. Where they're looking to change a 2-family into a 3-family. And looking at that, at the plan, they're basically putting a 3rd unit off the back of the house. It's a pretty congested area, and, it's only requiring a relief of 10 feet on the frontage, but it really is stressing the minimum lot area per dwelling unit limit or code, which I think is really important in a neighborhood like this, that we pay attention to, as a city, we pay attention to that lot area per dwelling unit measurement. So this one caught my eye, and I wanted to bring it out because I really wanted to go on record as making a recommendation to the zoning board that this is not the kind of thing from a city planning perspective that we want to be doing. So I don't know how the rest of the board feels about that, but.
I concur. It's a very congested area now, and as you've often said, Steve, why do we add more to congested areas to make them even more congested? It's not the right way to go.
So you then entertain a motion that we recommend a denial on 30 Edson Street?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
I'll second
Made
it.
and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Any opposition? Hearing none. Anybody else have any comments? If not, I'd like to make a recommendation on 30 Chippewa Street to install a new carport that does not meet rear, side, and distance from dwelling setback. I'd make a recommendation that we recommend denial on that matter.
I'll second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye?
The next matter, while we're at them, is 211 Plain Street. This is for a sign. I just say we go along with the recommendation of a design sign planner, because this one here does not meet the height recommendation, so I just say we go along with the recommendation of design planner. I'll put that in the form of a motion.
I'll second that.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And there's one other one there, if any, that one I looked at, I had no recommendations either way. I don't know if anybody else did.
Mr. Chairman, in looking at that location, and that's actually in keeping with that strip of road, the Ford dealership is right there. Highline is operating, and quite frankly, this is a building in between the two that's actually being dwarfed by the two-car dealership, so it actually makes sense that would be incorporated for that use. So I actually would make a motion that we would recommend approval on that.
Motion
I'd
made.
just like to make a comment on that. I don't disagree with it, I mean, the use of the land and everything. But one concern, if you go out and back there, that piece of property with a large 80-car parking area that's proposed is all chopped up right now, and it's not totally asphalt as,
But that abuts the dump there. It used to be the dump. It's
yeah,
like
and I'm just wondering, they're gonna have to dig that all up and re-asphalt the whole thing. And what about the drainage on all that impervious area? I don't think that was addressed here. I'd be concerned about that, but I'm not opposed to the project itself. So I don't know how to.
Yeah, I would, and looking at that, matter of fact, it looks, the pavement is pretty rough back there.
Yeah, there's hardly any pavement.
But,
really.
I mean, I certainly, the engineering department would require that, they have to comply with the city ordinances relative to drainage. So from a pure use perspective, I just think it's consistent with what's there.
Oh, yeah.
Matter of fact, I
Oh,
can't even
yeah.
imagine, it was a copying place that was there. I can't even imagine a business going in between those two car
They
dealerships
shouldn't.
and be successful.
Yeah,
I
you
think that
wanna
this is good
use
use.
the property and use it right, but I
Right.
think
But it's a good point you bring up, but I believe the city engineer department would be all over that as well, part of the approval process. But those are very valid points.
Okay, so we had a recommendation for approval. You want to put in, with somebody's recommendations that were mentioned by Rich, have a look in the back in regard to the runoff and the drainage when they go to incorporate the building up of the site.
Yeah, just as long as they comply to.
You satisfied with that? Okay, so
that's appropriate.
recommendation with a couple of suggestions. So we have a motion on the floor that was made and seconded with a couple of suggestions. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Any opposition? Hearing none? No. Move along. Do we have any general correspondences from any of the board members from any of the other boards that they sit on at this point in time?
No, we haven't met.
Hearing none. At this point in time, I guess we'll get back to Joe.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
At this point in time, I'll turn it over to any of the board members who have any comments. Let's start with Mr. Genman, if I could, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I just, Joe, want to wish you well. Hope that you continue your involvement in the city. It's been a pleasure and an education working with you on the board. Obviously, you take this role really seriously, and you have given it your all for the time that I've been on here. So it's a loss to the city for you to be leaving the board. I hope that you find some other way to contribute to the city, and I'm sure you will. Just want to thanks for being such a great colleague, and we'll have to find somebody to make the motion going forward. And I hereby nominate my colleague, Mr. Burchett, to move up to the big boy table, and I'll stay down here at the kids' table.
Thank you.
We'll put them both together.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, and truly, from a subtle perspective, I don't know if the residents of the city of Lowell recognize the asset of Joe's legal mind serving on this board. And we've commented week after week how much he's added to our approvals and the conditions and framing it in a way that in all the years that we've served, you know, I don't think we've been challenged. You know, there was a challenge from a prior, yeah, you know, after you leave, we'll probably get, we'll be challenged. But certainly, I think that's a tribute to the legal perspective that you bring to the decisions that are made here. And I certainly have been honored to serve with you on the board, and I certainly know you will continue to be active in the community, and at some point, we'll probably be seeing you before this board, I would imagine, at some point, so.
Never know. Thank you. Thank you.
Rich, anything else?
Yeah, Joe, it's been a real pleasure to work with you for a long time now. I've seen a lot of really good and interesting projects here in the city. I think one thing that we're going to be challenged with as we go forward as a board is your ability, we're going to lose your ability to summarize some of the more complicated projects with the insights that you have and just the way you have putting a thorough and accurate perspective on projects. It really has helped us make good decisions over the years, and we'll miss that. And again, be challenged by it, so good luck to you.
Thank you. Joe, I just want to say again, thank you. I know that myself and Mitchell both had the pleasure to sit with you for your 11-year tenure. And I know you always get to look through things, no matter how difficult they may be. And sometimes when I get a little out of control, you bring me back in, let me know to keep focused on what's ahead of us and not the personal conflicts that sometimes we try to deal through. But it's been a pleasure. I know that whenever you do make your motions always bring in your legal background into what motions will stand up a constitutional effort, you know, between the city, and we haven't had any problems with any of our appeal process or anything that's happened since you've been here because of the motions you make. I believe only one appeal we might have had that was overturned, then it came back before us, and it ended up in our way to begin with in the long run. So, and I know we all try to feel what's the best outcome for the city of Lowell. I know you always kept that at heart, and you're very fair-minded, and we're going to miss you and your legal background and keeping us in the straight and narrow, and we try to wander just a little bit sometimes, including myself most of the time. So thank you very much. And
Well, I thank you very much, and it certainly wasn't an easy decision to request that I not be reappointed. I thought about it long and hard, but I just feel after 11 years that I am ready to move on. I appreciate all the hard work that goes into this job and that you guys have done and will continue to do. I do want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank, first of all, a former city councilor, the late Armin Mercier, who nominated me to this position originally, and former city manager John Cox, who appointed me for a first and second appointment, and then city manager Bernie Lynch, who appointed me the third time. I want to thank them all for the confidence that they showed in me. I thank Mr. Lynch for coming down here tonight. I really appreciated that. And I have thoroughly enjoyed my 11 years on the board. I mean that sincerely, so that's why it was hard for me to come to that decision. I've learned a lot. I've met a lot of wonderful people. And I also want to thank our former chairman, George Zaharoulis, for his advice at council when he was on the board. The DPD staff is excellent. I go before a few boards around town, various towns, and I can really appreciate the hard work and attention to detail that the staff puts forward, the professionalism of the staff that makes our jobs much easier. I feel that you've given us all the tools that we need to be thoroughly prepared for the meetings, and the city of Lowell is very fortunate to have such a great staff. Also to my colleagues, each of you brings a special talent and energy to the board. I've seen that through the years. You're all hardworking individuals and dedicated to the task in front of you. As much time as we spend at these meetings, people need to realize much more time is spent reviewing the plans, the applications, the projects, site visits, etc. A lot goes into the job. I feel that we work together very well as a board. We didn't always agree, but we always respected everybody's opinion, and I appreciate that. I also want to thank our chair, Tom Linehan. I've had the pleasure of serving under him as chair. Tom's been here a long time, as the city manager said, I think 28 years. Tom has an amazing memory for all projects, past and present. Whenever he starts a sentence, do you remember? I'm like, uh-oh. I won't remember, but he will. For the past, I don't know how many years, we've had 3 chairmen, Arthur Hammer, George Zaharoulis, and Tom. So how many years has that been?
Since the mid-'50s.
Mid-'50s, so 3 chairmen of this board. So that consistency and dedication are remarkable. So I feel very confident I'm leaving the board in good hands. I want to thank you all. Perhaps someday I will see you on the other side of that podium. So thanks very much for everything.
You're welcome. I'll give you one applause, Joe.
All right, good luck, sir.
And just to be, what we said earlier, as I want to congratulate Steve Genvin and Jerry Fischette to be reappointed on the board, and as I congratulated the manager for reappointing you and giving us a new appointee, which was important for us, obviously, as when Joe indicated that he wouldn't be seeking nomination to be appointed, that the manager did act swiftly to give us a new member, which will be Joe Boyle, who will be starting at our next meeting. I reached out to Joe and called him and welcomed him to the board and congratulated him. He was going to try to be here tonight, but he had another engagement that he had to attend. And it's important that, as we all know, is to have the full board whenever we have special meetings, special permits, I should say, and we have 4 votes. And then we don't have that 5th person to sit down. It's not fair to the public, and if one of us can't make it. So it's very important that the manager did a great job of filling the vacancy and giving us the full board, because for a long time, we had board members for 4 years for a while. I think it was well over a year and a half. At one time, you only had 4 members, which was difficult. And it really put a lot of strain on a lot of the board members trying to figure out, is this the right thing when my one vote can either make or shoot down a project compared to the other people on the board? You didn't feel that way. It's 5, you're like, I have a little leeway, and, I can be heard, but, you really consider what's best for the city is difficult, so. And again, if you could just show that plaque we gave you in your appreciation, that's just a small token of our appreciation that we had for Joe, for the years of service that he's done, and I look forward to hopefully seeing him come before us in the future, because by the way he represents himself on this planning board, number 1, he'll know what we'll be looking for. And number 2, he know what we're going to ask him, and we're going to ask him if he read all the stuff from DPD before he gets here. So Joe will incorporate all those and maybe make our meetings move a little swifter, especially during playoff times, and hopefully keep me a little quieter so we move a little faster. Thank you. So, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And saying all that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. And motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we are adjourned. Thank you. Good night, everyone. Appreciate it.